Welcome to the DNX podcast, the number one resource for entrepreneurs, nomads, and impact-driven souls. And I am your coach, SILVIA Christman. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here today with my friend Amanda Francis, and we met probably a year ago in Nicaragua. And I'm so fascinated by her and her story that I wanted to have her on the podcast. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you for having me.
So, can you give us, and me, of course, a little description of what defines you the most? Like, what is it? What is Amanda Francis all about?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Let's just go into it. What am I about? So what I'm known for, I think what I'm known for the most is helping women change their mindset around money, but not in some cookie cutter, like law of attraction-y way. Like people who I create digital content is what Amanda Francis does. And when people take my digital content, my courses around money, they come out of it kind of being like, this is not anything I've ever seen and heard before around money. Like the same principles are there, but you taught me to like dig deep into what I really wanted and what I was lying to myself around, what I believed I could and couldn't have, and the own limitations I put around my own life, and the history and experiences that were telling me I couldn't have money. And so there's all this internal work I teach you how to do around money, but then I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, and I'm a self-taught internet marketer. So then there's the side of creating streams of revenue that I help women do. So we have like the practical side and the energetic side around money. And then what else do? I give free daily content and inspiration around being an empowered woman on social media. And I've done it for free every day for 7.5 years. I've never missed a day of distributing content online. And I think that's how and why I built up a really loyal audience. And then of course my business, though I'm obsessed with it, of course it's only a sliver of who I am. So, I mean, I'm also someone who, takes a daily beach walk and daily bar class and is obsessed with fuzzy blankets and hot mint tea and traveling the world first class style. And I don't know. And I'm obsessed with my car and I'm obsessed with my friends and I have a great family. I don't know. I'm a human being who lives a portion of her life publicly with the intention and mission to help a lot of women make a lot more money.
Yeah. And I, for one, really love the content that you put out there because you're very unapologetic about getting paid what you're worth.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I think a lot of women struggle with, to really ask for what they're worth. Because I've hired a lot of teams, I've worked with a lot of women, and that component is so big. I see it so often that women are too afraid to ask for what they're worth, or that their relationship to money is kind of riddled with fear and guilt and shame even.
Mm-hmm.
And that impacts their earning potential.
Yes, of course, 100%. And what I've observed through all these years with working with thousands of women around money is it's the same thing. Whether someone isn't, negotiating their salary or questioning their bonus or upping their price, like it's from entrepreneur to corporate America to teachers to nannies to moms, with all the same dialogue around telling ourselves a story around what we don't think we can have, what we don't understand that we're worth. And it's amazing around how when we change the internal, the external lines up through, and it can happen so many ways. I mean, I'm talking through, obviously you understand that you're worth more and you raise your prices if you're an entrepreneur, but also you realize you're worth more and you start getting random refund checks in the mail from your insurance company. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Uh-huh. So it's like I feel the universe is always trying to work with us. I feel like we're I know this is something that's a little controversial to say, but I think there is plenty of love and abundance in the universe. And there's the source of unconditional love and the source of unconditional anything you want, always trying to team up and work with you. And the thing that is in your way is often you. So when you don't think you can have it, your free will is pretty powerful, and you're creating basically a continual block that stops anything from flowing in.
Yeah.
Through expected ways, unexpected ways. I mean, people all the time will enroll in my courses and their husbands will get raises. And they're like, how did this happen? And I was like, well, your husband was non-resistant and you have the stories, and the path of least resistance of it flowing through happened to be him in this scenario. You know what I mean? It's ways we can't explain, but I think the flow of abundance is always trying to get to us.
Totally. I completely agree with that. So when I follow you online because I'm usually very entertained and enriched and delighted by your commentary of what goes on in the world and how people respond to you.
Oh yeah, I say ridiculous things. That's true. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I love women that are very unapologetic about who they are and stand for what they believe in, and even in response to haters, you have some really spectacular responses. You, yeah, you do. You just do. And so, what inspires you to actually take usually that head-on approach with haters?
Because I guess I realized early on that I was the best PR for myself. I just, so way before there were tens of thousands of dollars, way before there was tens of thousands of followers and millions of dollars coming in, there would still be little hateful moments. Someone just commenting this, saying that, just whatever. And my intention was always just to be honest, clean and clear, set the record straight, but not be hateful. Always de-identify people. I write some very, very strong posts on the internet, and you can never tell who they're about as a principle and a rule. It's not about me calling someone out. It's about me sharing a helpful principle to the world, right? So I write these very strong, powerful, blatant posts that piss people off, but I don't ever talk bad about anyone. I just want to set the record straight. And I want it to be clear and clean and honest and easy. And I don't know. So yeah, but I guess as the audience grows and as the dollar amounts are how dare she earn that much money? And as I talk about it, because I set the intention so long ago to make in a year what I used to make in a month, then make in a day what I used to make in a year. And I just keep doing it over and over and over again. And as I'm unapologetic about it, there's just a lot of how dare she? And then I have all these women who follow the work and implement the principles, and they start creating similar results, and they're boldly proclaiming it. And people are like, they're all liars. There's no way. And then we're sharing screenshots of our earnings, and people are like, the screenshots are fake. And I'm like, I don't even know how to make a fake screenshot. I don't know what you're talking about. I just I just screenshot it on my computer. What do you mean? And then I don't know. And people just get so angry. And there's this a couple forums going on online right now where they're just we're going to figure it out. We're going to find it out. And we're going to report her for fraud, and we're going to report it to the IRS. And I'm like, the IRS already has the total gross revenue. They can already confirm that I'm a multi-millionaire. They already know. And then there's a whole lot of write-offs based on the travel and the business. They already know that too. I mean, there's just nothing to fucking hide. So when there's nothing to hide, I think the best thing you can do is just tell the story. So I just get online all the time when people are saying crazy shit, and I just tell the story of what's actually happening.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that, because sometimes people get really shell-shocked by the things and I include myself in that too, right? I've got really shell-shocked by people's responses to me where I thought, really? A, do you have time for this? Who has time for that?
Isn't that weird? I agree.
That
Yeah.
is the most random and far-fetched sort of analogy you can possibly come up with. Or they're just loosely tying facts to a story that then no longer makes sense, or is so far from reality that I find it hard. It feels like mental gymnastics to follow their logic. Right?
Oh, totally. And they aren't real followers, because real followers could just explain it. Real followers will be like, oh, well, in this training, she talked about how she was traveling here for this and how she is renting this house for this amount of time. And like anyone who actually followed my work could just be like, well, no, she's already talked about all of that. But when you're just looking for things to be like, it's all fake, it's not real, she's not really renting those houses, it's just Airbnbs. I'm like, well, I was a nomad at the time. So that one house was an Airbnb, but then that other one was a 6-month lease. And why do you care either way? But it's like, I own homes as well. So like, why is but I have blogs that are like, here's the story of when I bought my first house. And like, so it's like, it's all out there in ways that make complete sense. If you want to follow the story, or I guess you can just make shit up. I don't know. It's very bizarre.
I agree. I deal with the same thing, which is so interesting. I had somebody try to go out there and tell people that I'm homeless and like lots of stuff, and I'm like, I own a home. I don't live in it. I rent Airbnbs because it's easier, and I move around in different places because I want to. They're usually tied to speaking engagement and work assignments or, clients that I work with. All of this you can follow on my podcast and my Instagram.
Right, totally.
Don't see myself as homeless.
It's so weird. She's really homeless. Right. No, totally. But, like, while you just live your life and stack the paper, they're like, she's actually homeless. We're going to figure it out. And then there's these people that are like, but how did she get here? And I'm like, every day I give tips on exactly how I run this business, exactly how I create it every day. So if you want to know how I did it, just follow along a little bit. Like, I don't know. It's very weird. Very weird.
However, it really makes my day to follow along, because I actually do follow along and your commentary, and I find it really enriching and amusing. And I also think it's fantastic to see that you were not fazed by it,
Well, yeah, yes and no. There's definitely things, I've been creating digital content for 7.5 years, like I said. So people copying sales pages, people copying course titles, that kind of stuff. I'm like, rise up, rise above, send a letter if you need to, or ask them to change it if you need to, or whatever, and just move on, because I've been doing it for a long time. And that was true as well for a lot of the hateful things. I was just like, okay, rise up. People say shit. Who cares? But then, I don't know. It's like how do I explain this? It feels like at every new level of my growth, there's a new level of crazy hatefulness. And it might get to me for a minute. And then I have to remember the principles I know to be true around who I am and what I do and why I believe in what I do and all the things. And then I come back to like what I know. And then I write a big rant about it on the internet. And that helps me move through it. And then I'm fine. But like, there's a moment where you're like, holy shit, that's the meanest thing. I can't believe that's like so mean. How could someone say that about a human being they don't know? Like, I'm still a person. So I guess I go through it, I grieve it, and then I go back to not being fazed. Yeah. Pretty much over and over.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this idea? It was recently suggested to me that I manifest all of that kind of hatefulness into my life.
I think there's truth to it. Here's how it feels to me. It feels like things come up that you need to heal, because have you noticed that if someone says something crazy about you and you know for sure it's not true and there's just nothing true about it in any way, and you've already dealt with any doubt maybe you had around it and whatever, you just blow it off so quickly. You're just like, whatever. But if they hit on something that maybe you were a little self-conscious about, or maybe you're wondering about, or maybe you think you didn't really explain clearly, or maybe you felt called to do something a little different, you didn't follow it, someone could say something and you would have a completely different response. So I think we manifest, I think shit comes up so we can heal it. So I think we're constantly manifesting our own growth. But do I think do I think that I manifested the haters per se? Not necessarily. You know what I mean? People are going to do what people are going to do. My reaction is the thing I have to look at. You know what I mean? That's really all for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, it's my reaction to what is in front of me. If it's triggering, there's work there. If I'm indifferent to it, then, next.
Yeah, on to the next.
On to the next. And you can, I can usually tell based on my emotional reaction on whether or not, and this is something I need to pay attention to, or maybe clarify for myself and others where I stand and how important it is to me. And also not be afraid, like I'm not, you said something earlier. It's about taking a step back and looking at who am I? What are the principles I live by? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? What does it reflect upon? Is there room for improvement? What do I do with this? And then how do I respond appropriately?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What is my response? And then my response is always done with the intention to help others, to empower others as well. Like it's all, by time I write about it, I want everyone to remember that we all have to rise above whatever the drama is at that moment, So yeah, by the time I write about it, I feel like it has a very empowering message. But when I'm in the midst of what the fuck, I'm probably not talking about it yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't really be helpful.
No.
It wouldn't be helpful. Like that's not how I use social media. I don't use social media to spread a bunch of fear and doubt and hate. Though I can be honest about the fear and doubt and hate once I'm coming from like my clean, clear place,
Yeah, definitely. So, what's next for you? What's next for the next, until the end of the year?
Oh man. Well, I don't know. So okay. My goal for the year was $3 million, and we're like at 2,100,000 as of the last day of September. So I'm like, okay, I run my business in a very funny way. I don't have the year planned. I never know what we're going to launch. I just never know what we're going to do at all. So I'm like, so right now is what do I feel called to do with October and the rest of the year? What content needs to be released? What needs to be re-released and recreated? And then kind of gearing up for things I want to do early in 2019, like my Money Mentality Makeover course. My favorite course typically releases the last week of January. So that's kind of in the back of my head that it's almost time for that relaunch. So all of that is going on. And then I recently signed a 1-year lease, which is crazy because, as you know, I was nomadic. So, and I still travel all the time, but it's like I have more of a home base in California now. I have a home base in a place I actually want to be between trips, and that hasn't always been something I've done. So I have my stable home base, and I need to make another $1 million this year. And what else am I doing? I don't know, just traveling around, creating content. The biggest thing probably going on in my life right now probably isn't business related. I'm finding myself, this is very, very weird for me. You might be able to relate. I'm finding my biggest focus being around home and grounding and connection. Like I find myself throwing brunch parties and dinner parties and I've always been someone that's like, I'm working. I don't need anyone in my house. You know what I mean? Like a friend will come over. I'm like, well, let's talk for an hour and then you're going to leave. But now a friend comes over and they'll stay for 3 nights because I have a lot of extra space and room. And I just want the people I love to be here and be around me and to talk and make food. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm preparing for a relationship or what exactly is going on. But I just want closeness with my people, and I just want to love my house, and I just want to decorate it, and I just want to be in one place a little more than I normally am. And all of that is probably the most interesting thing going on within me at the very moment.
I love that. Yeah, I've been feeling a lot of that myself too. I think it's one of the reasons I've just stayed in New York for the past 4 months consistently. Because I wanted to be close to my friends. I wanted to be at dinner parties. I wanted to have quality time. I wanted to ground down. I mean, I did not sign a lease of any sort. But
it's a very weird feeling. I'll let you know. I'll let you know how I feel about this in a couple more months, but I did do it.
It's like, I feel, I mean, one time I bought a condo because I was like, I'm going to live there for an entire year, and it lasted 6 weeks,
I don't know if you do this, but the properties I own, I just rent them out continually because I love the idea of the investment, but I don't love the idea in living in any place for very long. So that's my current vibe with real estate. Yeah,
totally. I mean, but my intention buying them was always that I bought them to live there, then never did, and rented them out fully furnished long term. One of them, I've had somebody in there for 10 years now.
So you're doing exactly what I'm doing. You've just been doing it longer.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, I'm a couple years older than you, and like so far nothing has changed. If that gives you any kind of like roadmap.
Got it. We'll see. Yeah, no, totally. Well, here's another thing that's only possible because of like my money mindset for sure is when I was nomadic, I like really resisted home bases, because I didn't want to spend money on a place where I wasn't. And I would fit everything into 3 suitcases because I was going to be gone for a month. And then I'd be like, wouldn't it have been nice to just be able to leave some of this back? Not, in storage or with a friend, but some of like these clothes hanging in a closet. So when I came back to wherever I was, there would be a sense of some of my stuff kind of being there all like organized and sorted and ready for me. So when I finally realized that it just didn't matter how much I travel, I personally want a home base, everything kind of felt easier. And then I decided that I wouldn't ever guilt myself for, having a place for 3 months, even if I was only going to be there for 3 weeks, because it felt good to me. And I wanted to leave my car and some of my shoes there. And that's a good enough reason at this point in my life.
Totally. I mean, just to be clear, I've had a base for most of my nomadic life.
I did it for like 3 years and it drove me so crazy.
Mm-hmm. I did it in between for a year or two, and it just is so ungrounding because I don't have one at the moment either because I gave the last one up in May. And it's far more ungrounding than it is to have a base. Just even the base that I used to have, I've never been there in the last base I had for 7 years, and I was never in there more than maybe 4 or 5 months at a time, and not even consecutively. Never more than that. But there's something about knowing, when you're tired, you just go there, or that you just have things, even if you just pop in the pack, unpack, look at your stuff in the closet, I don't know.
Totally.
Open mail. It's like a major event.
I think it's like a weird I don't know if everyone kind of has a hard time figuring out what this means for them when they're giving themselves permission to just travel all the time in whatever capacity. But like I had a storage unit that was set up for like a closet for a while, and I would just go to the storage unit, unpack, pack, and there were racks and bins and shelves, and it was a beautiful storage unit closet. But it still wasn't like, it still always felt like, but when am I going to go there? And when am I going to fly into that city? And how am I going to make it work? And giving myself permission to have a base was really helpful for me.
Yeah. I'm all about having a base. Yeah. I mean, I will have another one next year, but just logistically, it felt a little too complex at the moment.
Well, yeah, you can continue to create it and make it up as you go, for sure.
Well, there's always room to change your mind. That's what I remind myself of the most, is it's okay for it to be like this right now, and then I'm allowed to change my mind tomorrow.
500%. And I don't know, it all kind of always goes back to money for me, because like, for example, if I want to break this lease, the only fear would be the fee of breaking the lease and the fee of the deposit. But when you understand that like money is a renewable and unlimited resource, and you really truly can't run out of it, you can always have more flow in, then you just don't have to be fearful of any consequence of changing your mind. There's just this level of freedom, which has made such a difference for me.
Totally. See, that's what you said. The freedom comes from understanding that it's a renewable resource. So you don't have to it's the idea of having to hoard it and keep it planet that really keeps you stuck in not understanding that there's always going to be more.
I know. And it's just, yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all day long, but it's like women, I observe in my industry that women start earning it and they feel better about knowing they can receive it, but they don't feel worthy of keeping it. So then they'll earn it, but then they'll manifest bills for everything they receive and then they won't. But like, I just believe that it's unlimited. We can have it all. So we can earn unlimited amounts of it. We can keep unlimited amounts of it. We can invest and use and spend unlimited amounts of it. And it can like always flow in and cycle through in all the areas. It's not like either people act like it's either you save or you spend, but I believe in overflow in all the places. So it's safe to spend it all, or it's safe to spend a fuck ton of it, still have a lot of it in the bank, still have a lot of it invested, and and still earn even more than all of it, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, no, it's like it's safe to spend it. I don't think that there's an idea. I don't think that there's such a thing as wasting your money. Have you ever wasted your money on something? I mean, I've spent money on something that I thought would turn out differently, but it always gave me something else that I probably didn't think about. At the very least, an experience that I probably needed to have.
Oh, I don't think it's possible to waste money at all. I think it's possible to not honor your desire around spending, but I don't think it's possible to waste money. No, not even close. Because like you said, like I haven't actually thought of it like, oh, it gave me a lesson or experience, but I think of it like I spent it well based on my desire at that time, and honoring my desire is always the right decision. Like I believe our desires are from the divine. So if I honored myself in my choices, then it was always right. And I'm still in complete flow with it because I was honoring my relationship with money. But say I spent it wrong, quote unquote, and didn't honor my money or whatever, that still wouldn't be a waste. There would obviously, like you said, be a lesson there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed in my life that when I was just doing this last night. I was looking at where am I going to put, what am I going to do, this winter? What do I want to spend money on? What do I want to do? And it's just like, do I want to buy all of this like kite surfing equipment because it feels like a good idea and I really want to do it? I have never.
To me, that would be honoring your soul, your life, and your desire, of course.
And last year that wasn't on the agenda at all, but I didn't regret a second of that decision. I did not, because it was so 100% aligned with something I just wanted to try. It just, it just popped up in my life and I thought, oh, this is amazing. I definitely want to do this. Like, come what may, I'm doing it. Yeah.
Totally. It feels like to me, this kind of idea, I think people get this way around like destiny, around money, around relationships. They act like everything's so fragile that they can drop it and break it. But like what you're saying is like, it's not fragile. It's safe to desire kite surfing, to spend on kite surfing, and to have like an incredible experience. Like there isn't so like, oh, I'm going to fuck it up. I'm going to spend the money wrong. And then more is never going to come to me, which is silliness,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also, I caught myself for a moment thinking, well, if I buy all of this, I'm going to have to drag it around the world. Right? Like, oh, more luggage. And at the same time, it's just like, no, it'll work itself out. It'll totally work. I don't know how.
It always does. Yeah. Oh my God, I have a story that's not the same as that reminds me of that. Okay. So I'm going to tell it really quickly. This weekend, my friend was driving my car. We were on the way to church, and she hit a pothole and it blew out my tire. So we're on Pacific Coast Highway with a blown out tire. And like, instead of like getting like funky and mad or whatever, we're like, we're still going to have a great day. Like we have on great outfits. We were in great moods. We're going to have a great day. So we literally walked to a museum, right? We walked to a museum, the Getty Museum. It overlooks like the Pacific coast. So we're looking at the ocean. We're walking around. We're drinking rosé. We're having the best time. And eventually the tow truck calls. We're like, oh, we have to go back to the tow truck. So we hop in the shuttle at the museum to go back to the tow truck. And the shuttle driver was like, hey, are these your keys? Apparently, I had left my keys on the bench when we first walked into the museum and not known it. But my intention to have fun and flow through the day and drink my rosé and not be irritated about my car or the money or whatever, like all worked itself out perfectly, where the shuttle driver not only drove us right up to my car on the PCH, but he had my car keys all along that allowed the tow truck driver to get into the car and allowed everything to work perfectly. And it just reminded me, had I done any version of that day besides following my heart to the museum, to the rosé, to the best day, it wouldn't have been that driver. He wouldn't have had the keys in the pocket. Like, it all could have been such a disaster instead of the most flowy day of my life, you know?
Yeah. As you would say, 500%. I totally know what you mean. This is so
yeah. But that's how it is, whether you don't know how you're going to, because, you know, we definitely could have been like, but how are we going to get back to the car in time? The tow truck should be here in 20 minutes. We could have like worried about all the things. How am I going to get a rental car? And we just didn't worry about any of the things. Just like you're saying with the like luggage, it's like, there is always a solution. It does always work itself out. We really don't have to focus on the how so much, you know?
No, I mean, look, I'm in the middle of a launch right now, and it's just like, it's like an autopilot, which is so ironic, you know, like I've done this before where just like worried and thought about everything endlessly. And right now everything seems to be an autopilot. It just seems to be creating itself.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that too. Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
yeah. One of my team members said to me last week, she's like, have you noticed launches have gotten really easy? And it's like, yeah, we kind of have systems and structures I've made up over the years, but we also just expect things to go well, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the one thing I noticed about myself in the last 24 hours, that I just expected it to go seamless. And so it is. It's unfolding a little slower than I would like it to be, but at the same time, there's so many other things I'm doing that I wouldn't want the stress for it to move faster.
Yeah.
So
and you believe it all gets to be perfect, so you're not freaking out.
No, and it's really interesting to see that every time I look at something or I work with the team and I look at it and it just all looks perfect.
That's amazing. Manifestation Pro. Good work.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Great pride in that. Yeah, and it wasn't, and I think the reason it's so important is because it wasn't always like that for me. I think everything felt like a struggle, and I used to just like really work hard to make things happen. And that's no longer the case, you know?
No, God. Yeah, no, me either. God, totally not. I mean, my business is very contingent on me launching, very much so. But I've said, you know, in the past, I don't know, couple years, that launching feels like an extension of breathing. It feels natural. It feels fun. It feels easy. Launching used to be this thing where I couldn't hang out with anyone for the 7 days of the launch, and I just had like to work all the time. And now I'm like, well, not really. You just like write copy and you put it in emails and you copy and paste it onto Facebook and Instagram, and then you do like an Insta story and like maybe a Facebook Live. Like, why did I think this was hard? I don't know. Like, I expect it to be a natural, easy extension of just my desire to get content to people, and that doesn't need to be hard.
Yeah, I agree. All right, this was awesome. Time flies. Thank you so much for making the time, and we're going to post the links of your website and all the good things that you're working on below so that people can find you.
I would love it.
All right. Well, take care. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your ongoing support. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Please go check out dnxcommunity.com. This is where you'll find the other nomads and evaders of convention. We'll see you there. And if you're interested in our English-speaking events, go and check out dnxglobal.com. You'll find the link below this podcast as well. And if you have time, one last favor, please go to iTunes, look for Sylvia Christman or look for the DNX podcast and leave a review. Thank you so much, lovely people, and I'll talk to you next time.